But Chris Kavanagh put in one of the most disaster class performances from a referee I think you've ever seen. And, we've seen some bad performances from officials before. There was a tweet from Match of the Day in the evening saying, if anyone missed any of the action, tune in to Match of the Day this evening. Chris Kavanagh missed nearly everything that was in the Villa game.
Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly. All hail Mansfield. Their win at Burnley, the only thing that kept the magic of the Cup alive this weekend, even if it's impossible to be surprised by a Burnley defeat of any kind. Elsewhere, was this a great weekend for VAR? Some terrible decisions, especially at Villa Park. Have referees regressed because of the technology, or was it just a bad performance? And even still, was it worse or considerably better to have a weekend without anyone drawing lines and super slow-mo replays of non-handball handballs? The pitch at Grimsby was good fun, but not fun enough for Wolves to lose, and then basically every Premier League side won. Also today, a brilliant day in the Scottish Premiership title race. Celtic coming back from 2 goals down at Kilmarnock, and Rangers coming from behind to beat Hearts. It's tight up there. There's Igor Tudor to Spurs, Thomas Tuchel staying with England, a director of football going in goal, and someone's run the numbers of Barry's chicken-killing youth. We'll answer your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hi, Max. Not for the first time, I want to skip straight to the end.
Like all the listeners. Dan Bardell, hello.
Good morning.
Welcome, John Brewin.
Hello, Max.
Let's start then at Turf Moor. Burnley 1, Mansfield 2, the only real upset of the FA Cup 4th round. I think, John, in the last round of the FA Cup, we said there's a chance that Mansfield Town's name had never been uttered on the podcast before in its history. And now look at them. And without them, this weekend had no magic.
No, thank the Lord for Nigel Clough, who oddly did not do any post-match duties. I'm not sure why that was, but I was listening to the car radio on my way back from Birmingham, and I heard an interview with someone who sounded just like Nigel Clough, and then talked about how he was going to have a nice bottle of wine after the game. And I thought, that doesn't sound like Nigel Clough. And I think it was, I couldn't even work out if it was Gary Crosby or Andy Garner, one of his assistants. But anyway, yeah, a great win. Is a Burnley defeat to Mansfield, does that live up to our definition of the Cup of Dreams as compared to, well, the team that sound a bit like Mansfield, that I'm often accused of, the town I'm often accused of being from Mansfield when I'm from Macclesfield? I'm not sure. I suppose the bigger question, because we are Premier League-eyed, is what does this do for Scott Parker? It was a pretty empty Turf Moor, the public not really up for this one. But let's credit Mansfield. Brilliant result. And, of course, the winning goal scored by Lewis Reed. Oh. Let's do the gags, shall we? A perfect day. And that goal really was a transformer. And it was hit. It was vicious. So there we go. There's me Lou Reed gags.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I can't fit Walk on the Wild Side in, but then you won't be surprised to hear, John, out of Lou Reed songs. Satellite something?
Satellite of Love. Wonderful song. Great Bowie backing
Satellite
vocals.
of Love, yes. Yeah. Anyway, Barry, it was a brilliant free kick. And look, Mansfield took loads of for them, and we say this every year, I guess, for them, this was the Cup of Dreams. This was brilliant. And they'd had their second really good result in this competition.
Yeah, I think it's as far as they've ever gotten the tournament. And again, if you're expecting it to happen, does it still count as a shock? Technically, yes, it's an upset. I wasn't even remotely surprised Burnley lost, but they should have been out of sight by half-time. Ashley Barnes providing his sort of occasional reminder that he's still at Burnley, still exists. He missed a sitter. Jacob Bryn Larson had one hooked off the line, I think, after beating the keeper. Loom Chume blazed one over the bar when he should have at least hit the target, if not scored. So Burnley did have chances to put Mansfield away before half-time. They didn't take them and paid the price. Burnley fans clearly aren't going to be particularly fussed. Very few of them turned up. Who can blame them? And whether or not this decides Scott Parker's fate, doesn't really matter at this stage because their season is pretty much over, isn't it? Bar the most implausible and unlikely of turnarounds. But hats off to Mansfield. Hats off to Nigel Clough. He's played in an FA Cup final. His dad famously never won it. And he's unlikely to win it with Mansfield, but he has a better chance of winning it this season than Scott Parker.
Yes, and I looked up famous people from Mansfield: Rebecca Aglington, Richard Bacon, and Alvin Stardust. I don't know if any were in attendance. Would be some surprised if Alvin Stardust was in attendance.
Yeah, I was going to say,
since he left his model coil in 2014. Dan, Burnley made 9 changes. I mean, there's a piece by Phil McNulty on the BBC website saying that there were 183 changes in this weekend's 14 games. Hull and Ipswich made 10, Oxford made 8. But did Burnley need to make 9 changes for this game? Like, should Scott Parker be? I mean, he's under some pressure anyway. But like, if you don't win and you do that, people will ask that question.
Yeah, and he said that himself after the game that people would raise questions because they've been knocked out, and probably fair enough, and probably rightly so. If you look at Wolves, they would have made changes as well, but they've got through, and it kind of gives their season something. It gives the fans something to kind of dream about, something to look forward to, because they know they're going to be in the Championship. For Burnley, a home tie to Mansfield, you get yourself into the 5th round. It probably would have done the same for them. So I think Burnley fans will have every right to feel disappointed. Managers have their reasons for making changes. There's a reason why nearly every club does it, particularly the Premier League teams and sometimes the Championship teams as well. You've got to get minutes into people that don't normally play. Other teams have other priorities, so they make those changes. But you can't get away from thinking that would have given the Burnley fans just something this season, a glimmer of hope, and now it kind of feels like that they've got absolutely nothing. And I think Josh Laurent was one of those changes, and Burnley deserved to get knocked out for his celebration in front of the Mansfield fans. A very arrogant and cocky celebration at 1-0 up. When I watched Match of the Day and kind of knew what was going to go and end up happening in that game, I did chuckle to myself that he did that celebration and eventually he'll have been knocked out of the FA Cup.
Yeah, although he did sit the keeper down quite nicely. Beating Mansfield gives him hope, but losing to Mansfield in a season that's going terribly wrong is just can it get worse? And I suppose, John, the question is, do you think Scott Parker deserves to keep his job at Burnley?
I suppose the question would be, what is the point of getting rid of him at this point in the season? Because, as Barry said, the fate is pretty much sealed. And the other thing is, Alan Pace, who is the owner of the club, has come on under a bit of criticism from fans. There's been a bit of an open war there. And do you know what? Sometimes owners like someone else to be a lightning rod for criticism coming their way. And maybe Scott Parker will serve as a probably well-paid, well-numerated human shield for the ownership until the end of the season. But when Burnley fans look back on this season, another season in which they are going down, the Mansfield loss is obviously one that's going to go against Scott Parker, who has, we all have to say, done a good job at Burnley doing what Scott Parker does, but the doubts will be, of course, of his credentials as a Premier League manager, though those in the Scott Parker camp would point out that how often has he had the materials to work with to stay up? I mean, maybe you could point to the fact that Gary O'Neill did a very good job in succeeding him at Bournemouth a few years ago and helped establish that club. But, yeah, I'm sort of anti-sacking managers, apart from one instance. When the fate is sealed for the season, it makes it easier for a new manager to come in to have a clean break in the summer, doesn't it? Rather than a series of games in the Premier League where they're losing, and you affect how things. You affect the psyche of the club going into the season ahead because they've already got to be planning for a promotion campaign at this point.
To Villa Park then. Villa 1, Newcastle 3. Malaga Mag says, watching the Newcastle Villa games, refereeing was like watching a child on its bike for the first time without stabilisers. Adrian, surely we need some sort of video refereeing brought in after the Villa Park disaster. One quick check on a replay and they could get 100% of decisions correct, says Adrian. We had lots of questions, of course, along those lines. I didn't think you had money for PSR, but Chris Kavanagh was a good signing, Dan, but not enough. It's just a joke. He just had a bad game, but still, it was. I mean, I don't know which decision was it was the handball penalty, wasn't it? They all went in your favour, Dan, but he had a bad day when he had no VAR.
Yeah, and annoying from a Villa perspective that you're the right end of so many decisions, yet you still find a way to get a player sent off and get yourself knocked out of the cup. I was obviously in the ground and don't think I appreciated at the time how bad some of the decisions were. I kind of walked away thinking 11v11, I think Villa might have won that because I thought we were on top. Got back, watched the highlights and realised, actually, we were a little bit fortunate there with a few decisions. And as soon as Villa went down to 10, Newcastle have got the kind of energy and application where they can make that work for them. Villa are a team that notoriously struggle when they come up against 10 men. But in the second half, as soon as Newcastle got one, you just felt that they'd go on and win the game, and they did. But Chris Kavanagh put in one of the most disaster class performances from a referee I think you've ever seen. And, we've seen some bad performances from officials before. There was a tweet from Match of the Day in the evening saying, if anyone missed any of the action, tune in to Match of the Day this evening. Chris Kavanagh missed nearly everything that was in the in the Villa game. So I'm assuming he tuned into the FA Cup edition of Match of the Day.
Yeah. So the big question, Barry, is if you have VAR and that exists, that probably changes how you referee a football match. So then and I don't know how many games in the Championship, if any, Chris Kavanagh's doing, but that you're not used to
doing
refereeing VAR.
from now on.
He's at Mansfield next week. Yeah.
But I mean, the handball inside the box is the most egregious, isn't it, Baz? Because it's so far in the box.
Yeah. And the thing is, he saw the handball, so it's not like Dean handled the ball. Luca Dean, who should not have been on the pitch because he should have been sent off in the first half. Another challenge that Kavanagh saw but didn't penalise accordingly. So he saw the foul. If he hadn't seen the foul, you'd go, okay, he missed it, fair enough. But he saw it, but thought it was outside the area, and that beggars belief. And the linesman was nearby. He presumably also saw it. I guess they're conditioned to have, they think, I have VAR as a safety net, so if I make a big boo-boo, it'll bail me out. But obviously VAR wasn't there. The only thing I'd say is, I don't think while his decisions were terrible, I don't think they were the worst of the weekend. I think the worst of the weekend came in the Burton West Ham game, when Burton were denied a clear, absolute stonewall penalty when the score was still 0-0. And I think if they'd got that penalty and scored it, I think they'd have won. But we'll get to that game later. For all the bad decisions that went against Newcastle, at least they won the game, so it didn't affect the outcome. Which is not to say, on another day it could have easily affected the outcome and probably would have. Yeah. But it was a shocking performance. The only thing I'd say for those who are saying, this shows why we need VAR, is that was one of 14 games that have been played in this round of the Cup. Most of them were fine from a refereeing perspective. There were a few errors, but we'd have got a few errors as well, I'm sure, if VAR had been on the case.
Yeah, and actually, John, it's a sort of case in point for VAR if what it did was said, that's outside the box, that's a red card and that's offside, and then did nothing else in that game. You go, actually, it wouldn't take very long and we all wouldn't have a problem with VAR. I still preferred the football this weekend, and I'm a neutral. And Eddie Howe actually said it's better for the neutral. It's annoying when you're on the wrong end of decisions. But it sort of showed that, the mistakes are sort of part of it, really.
Well, yeah, there's been this widespread view that this was a disappointing weekend, but, it made for a hell of an atmosphere at Villa Park. It really did. It really, I was near the Newcastle fans, so their outrage was there. Of course, if you're in the press box, you have the benefit of replay, so you can see the mistakes being repeatedly made, and both managers actually spoke in favour of VAR. In a way, I mean, Eddie Howe obviously hedges everything he pretty much says anyway. Unai Emery just said, no, you need it to provide assistance to referees. It was, I mean, some of the decisions. I mean, the Lucas Dean one. I mean, that's what even VAR. On a coffee break or falling asleep after the dinner, which sometimes we think might be going on up at Stockley Park, would have given that one straight away, wouldn't they? On second look, I mean, it was vicious, it was nasty. Nick Greenhalgh, I think, was the linesman who probably needs to go to the opticians to see his spatial awareness, how that works, because he was level with it when it was in the handball in the box, which was, as you say, the most. Actually, yeah, is that the most egregious decision? I think the Lucas Dean one was. My favourite bit actually about video replays about this game was Bezo, having been sent off, decided that he was going to watch the replay of his sending off on the video in the dugout before he went into the dressing room to just check to see why he had been sent off, because it was almost as if he'd lost the run of himself and was confused as to why he'd been sent off. I mean, that was blatant. There is actually a question there of, is he sent off for serious foul play, in which it's a 3-match ban, or is it dogzo, in which case I think it's only a 1-match ban, which I suppose, but we don't know.
I think the official said dogzo. But it was more dangerous play, I think. And actually, Dan, of all the decisions, that was the worst decision of the game. Him flying out like that, wow. It's madness.
Yeah, reminiscent of Emi Martinez on the last day of last season at Old Trafford. I couldn't. I sit in the Holte End. Couldn't believe he kind of looked down and he was already gone before it developed. Yeah, I don't know what was going through his brain. He's quite a composed goalkeeper and calm goalkeeper generally, but completely lost his mind. And obviously that's kind of killed Villa's FA Cup run from that moment. Even though they're a goal ahead, it was always going to be very difficult being down to 10 for that amount of time. And when your goalkeeper goes off, it feels like you have to have more of a rejig. Although I guess you don't, because you're still just losing a man and someone goes off. I'm going to sound bitter, and I've got nothing against Newcastle at all. I think Newcastle and Villa are in the same boat in a lot of ways, financially and with the restrictions. I did think that result maybe masked over a few things for them, because I think in the first half when it was 11 v 11, I can't get away from this season thinking that their football's a little bit basic, and that their strength was always their physicality and the way they pressed, the more physical side of the game. And because the Premier League's gone more that way generally, I feel like their strength's almost been negated. When their formation, the 4-3-3. Nowadays, you've got fullbacks inverting, like Villa play with a left winger who plays as a left 10. For Newcastle, everyone is kind of doing the job that position stereotypically dictates. And I just think if that had been 11 v 11, I think Villa would have got through relatively comfortably. I think they'd have gone on and got the second goal. Obviously, the first one shouldn't have stood. But I do think it masks some deficiencies in Newcastle's kind of makeup this season that they got through.
Worth mentioning Sandro Tonali's second goal, because it's such a brilliant ball strike, isn't it? Absolutely loved it. But if have you got any other thoughts on this, John? I know you were there too. But
yeah, Dan makes a good point actually about the first half. Voltemade, I thought, struggled a bit in that, and there's been a few doubts about him. He did get his goal, but listen, Villa in the second half essentially was saying, "Come and break us down," and I think actually there Voltemade did show that he's more than just the big man, with some lovely touches, and he's very, very good to watch when he's in that form. What a player that I do like very much. Harvey Barnes didn't have the best day. Anthony Gordon a little bit off. But Tonali, a guy of whom there's a few questions being asked of his future, and there's it's the question I think Eddie Howe's asked him almost every week. What's his status? Came through. No Bruno Guimaraes, of course, for a significant amount of time. And so someone's got to step up, and it looks like Tonali's going to be the man. Good win that for Newcastle, I think. It hasn't been the best season really for them. And you know what? It's their only chance of silverware. And after last year, when they enjoyed it so much, winning at Wembley, going back to Wembley again would be make the season better, make it memorable. And that's what we're in it for, right? Memories.
Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Pedro just writes mud. The result wasn't what we wanted, Barry. And I sort of shame on Grimsby for not scoring a Ronnie Radford in that mud. I think
Yes.
there was one Wolves player looked like he'd done Tough Mudder by half time. And, the ball just rolling out and stopping in the just off the side of the pitch. It had all the things you wanted apart from the result.
Yeah, it was very nicely set up for an upset. A bad Premier League team arriving at Blundell Park, wet, windy, freezing cold. The pitch is a barely playable bog. The mascots who accompanied the players out on the pitch looked like they would rather be anywhere else. One of them was crying. He was so cold. A couple of them were wearing gloves. One had, I don't know if it was ear defenders, or they were woolly, so I'm guessing just ear muffs to keep the cold out rather than the noise. So it was, the conditions could not have been more perfect for an upset. At one stage, I think one of the Grimsby players was shepherding the ball out of play for a throw-in, and it just sort of stuck on the line and eventually trundled out of play. But the mud. And fair play to Wolves. I mean, it was not a good game. It was a fun occasion, but it was not a good game. I think both sides had one shot on target, and Wolves happened to score theirs. Santi Bueno need in a João Gomez cross, and that was Wolves' only shot on target. I think Gomez hit the bar as well. But it was unfortunate. It could not have been set up better for Grimsby, and they weren't able to take advantage. But they gave a decent account of themselves.
They did, and look, they've had they beat Man United in the Carabao when it was absolutely pelting. Sort of Ruben Amorim's nadir of many nadirs, I guess. If you can have more than one nadir before you write in. What about Burton West Ham? Actually, Baz, you did the minute by minute of this one as well, didn't you? How sad were you when there was an extra half hour to cover of this one?
I was devastated, I won't lie. I was really devastated. And I was really annoyed with West Ham because they made, I think it was 10 changes. Mavropanos was the only player from the last game to be picked. They left Jared Bowen, Thomas Soucek and Mateus Fernandes. They had the weekend off. They didn't even travel, weren't in the squad. And the players who did go out, so bear in mind, these are players who can't get in the West Ham team. They strolled around in the first half as if visiting Burton and playing this team of League One strugglers was beneath them. And that annoyed me. I'm not sure why, because, I don't really care about Burton or West Ham. But yeah, I was annoyed by that. And then eventually they brought on Crescencio Somerville. He provided one of very few moments of quality in the game, and that was enough to win it for West Ham. Freddie Potts was sent off as well for a late, nasty lunge. Couldn't really have any complaints. But Burton, they had loads of corners, loads of free kicks. They in Therese Shade, they had a long throw merchant, but they weren't able to do anything with all these crosses from corners, open play, long throws, free kicks. West Ham were just heading everything away. But, as I already said, Burton should have had a penalty in the first half when it was 0-0. I have no idea how it wasn't given. It was one of those, I can't remember who was on cold comms, but they were going, it wasn't enough of a barge.
But it was. It wasn't even a soft barge. It was like the guy takes on his chest,
Jake
doesn't he?
Beasley and absolutely clattered into him and flattened him. And I don't understand why it wasn't given. So Burton are entitled to feel a bit aggrieved, but they could have done more, I think.
Yeah. Birmingham took Leeds to penalties, Dan. I don't know how you feel about talking about Birmingham City. It does remind me of that rivalry of someone calling Paul Hawksby on TalkSport. It was like, and he was a Villa fan, and he was driving and got a chipped windscreen, had his family with him in the pissing rain, winter's night, and the guy comes up to fix the car with auto windscreens, and he refused to have his have his windscreen done by someone who worked for Auto Windscreen because they sponsored Birmingham City. Anyway, this was quite a good game, I thought. Birmingham Leeds, I don't know what you made of it.
Yeah, first half, I would say not much happened, but in the second half and extra time, it was a really, really good cup tie. It was an open cup tie that I think could have gone either way. I thought Birmingham gave a good account of themselves, really, and when it went to penalties, I thought they might get through here, which isn't ideal from a Villa fan perspective. But I thought they did really, really well. I thought that their deliveries from set pieces, I mean, I know most teams' delivery from set pieces is good nowadays, but they caused Leeds real problems. So I actually thought there was a lot for Birmingham to take heart from there. They've still got a chance of getting in the playoffs and trying to go up this season as well. So they looked in a good place to me. The pitch wasn't great. It wasn't as bad as the Grimsby game, but I didn't think the pitch was great. But Leeds get through, and at the moment, Daniel Farke just seems to generally be finding a way to be doing a really, really good job there. From the moment he came under serious pressure, he's just kind of rode every storm that's come his way, and I don't expect them to go down. And now the Leeds fans can start dreaming of Wembley and having a cup run, which I think they'd all enjoy as well. So yeah, Leeds have got through, but I actually thought it was a really, really interesting game and really, really exciting game end to end.
Can I just say, I really enjoy the Villa v Blues rivalry. It's for its utter pettiness. I don't know if you saw this footage. I think it was last year when a Birmingham fan was laid to rest, and at the funeral,
yes, I did. Yeah,
the congregation were asked to sing, and they did sing "Shit on the Villa" together, and it was a very poignant moment. I felt wonderful.
Yeah. It's amazing what football can do, isn't it?
Brings us all together, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, yeah.
I thought Paul Robinson on Match of the Day made a very interesting point about this. So this went to penalties, Leeds won, and the Leeds keeper had the players' names and numbers on his bottle and which side of the goal they kicked to. But Paul Robinson made the point that the Birmingham players, they were wearing some retro kit, very nice one actually, blue with a white stripe down the middle, but they didn't have numbers on their shorts. So working in the assumption that the Leeds goalkeeper would not have a clue what their names were, or most of them, his water bottle was sort of rendered redundant because he wouldn't be able to see the back of their shirts as they walked up. I just could sort of imagine a player walking up to place the ball, the keeper just going, "Would you mind turning around?"
What's your name, please? Yeah, Lucas Perry. Unless Lucas Perry has an encyclopedic knowledge of all Midlands football, it's his little skill. He knows everyone there. I did like their kit, yeah, celebrating 150 years. He made a brilliant save, Lucas Perry, from Jay Stansfield in the first half, and then Birmingham hit the post in injury time before extra time, and then there was an amazing block just after that. But Leeds are through. Some of the big guns: Liverpool 3, Brighton 0. And we mentioned lots of changes, John, and Liverpool didn't make lots of changes. I don't know if Arne Slot has PTSD from losing to Plymouth last season, but the FA Cup could be some salvation for them this year.
Yes, though we did. The mysterious Calvin Ramsey did come on at the end, though, which was interesting. That's a good win. Brighton. That's more the story, I suppose, that we're interested in. Fabian Hurtzler's future becomes a little bit more uncertain. A lot of discussion over whether they'd be pulled into a relegation battle, which I don't see, but I might be wrong because they're in such bad form. I think Arne Slot decided, yes, let's keep up the good vibes with a team selection, again, that man, Dominic Szoboszlai, comes through with a great goal. That's just what he does.
That was so nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, and, I've seen some comparisons to Steven Gerrard this season, about like how Steven Gerrard used to do this, put himself in, play in other positions for the team and do that. Now, Steven Gerrard is possibly the greatest Liverpool player of all time, give or take, Kenny Dalglish or whatever. So, Sob's got a bit of a way to go, but he has been brilliant this season, and without whom Liverpool's disappointment would be yet greater. So let's credit him. He's one of those players. The best players and I thought this about Morgan Rogers at the weekend. The best players are those that want to play every game. You know, the real top players, as we'd call them, or Harry Redknapp would. They just want to play every game. I always remember Rooney and Ronaldo in FA Cup games at, say, Burton or Exeter or whatever would want to play. You can't drop them. Messi was like that, you know. A Copa del Rey game, they'd play at, you know, some third division team. He'd want to play. And Szoboszlai is one of those as well, isn't it? It's like, you're not playing. You'd obviously, the disappointment on the face would be, no, I want to play. And that's what you need, isn't it, from the best players? And he is, at the moment, Liverpool's best player by a significant distance.
Yeah, I can see, like, just on that goal itself, it had a Gerrard-like quality, didn't it? Kind of, just, bang, done, inevitable, brilliant goal. You all knew it was going to happen, and it did. And, you know, like, coming from right back as well. Having a very good season. For Brighton, well, they play Brentford on Saturday. Feels like a big game for Hurts.
Yeah.
Brentford are quite good, although they will be coming off the back of that humiliating defeat to Macclesfield, John, won't they? Arsenal beat Wigan 4-0. They were 4-0 up after 27 minutes, and that was that. But look, two beautiful assists for Eberechi Eze, Dan, who has not had a really great time at Arsenal, apart from that hat-trick against Spurs. And I think people who love football would love him to do well.
Yeah, you kind of felt like that hat-trick at Spurs would be a lightning rod moment, and I don't know what the opposite of a lightning rod moment is, but that's what it's been. Since they've not really done too much in an Arsenal shirt since. Good player, you know. I still would think he's going to be going to the World Cup. I'd be surprised if he didn't make the squad. But that does feel like there's been something a little bit funny going on. Although I think Arteta has got a bit of a penchant for he'll kind of take someone out for a bit and almost get them angry and then unleash them back into the lineup from nowhere, and they do well. I think he's done that a few. He did it with Trossard. I can't remember his last season or this season where he didn't pick him for a bit and then he put him in and he got loads of goals and did really well, as he often does in an Arsenal shirt. And quadruple still on for Arsenal, so there's going to be plenty of games for them to rotate, plenty of games for everyone to play. So just a routine win for them, really, wasn't it? Gabriel Jesus keeps scoring when he plays. I feel like since he's come back from injury, he'd maybe been forgotten about just before he came back. Doing better this season than he was before the injury. The injury seems to have done something to him, in my opinion.
This is the podcast where all roads lead to Aston Villa, but I believe it was an error against Aston Villa in the game Villa won that led to Eze being shunted out of the team by Mikel Arteta. He didn't like the fact he didn't press hard enough. He made an error in possession or something like that. That's the word that I've received. Another player who has had the Arteta cold shoulder, Miles Lewis-Skelly. I felt a bit sorry for him because this was the day he was supposed to play midfield to show that. Remember, that was the player that he was as a young player, as a youth team player. Mm-hmm. A bit like Trent Alexander-Arnold, though a bit further on in his development, he came in the fullback to get him into the team. Unfortunately, Calafiori gets an injury in the warm-up. Lewis-Skelly has to play left back, which he did a perfectly reasonable job, but we didn't get to see MLS as he would like to be in midfield, and that was disappointing for me because I'd like to see this because there's a lot of rave reviews there. He did pick up what I often think with him is his customary booking for a fairly nasty challenge, which would show you caution at playing him at left back. But injuries, that Calafiori one, we'll have to look at that for Arsenal. They picked that up, and you could see Mikel Arteta not happy. But yeah, over at 27 minutes, they made a sub Wigan and actually did very well after that. It was Graham Barrow, wasn't it? His 71 legend on his sixth spell as caretaker manager. Tony Parksian.
Is it sixth though? I only had four, but I have six. Is it? Oh right.
I think it was six because there was one where he was. Or maybe it's fifth or sixth, but he is the man that always comes to the rescue, doesn't he? He was sat in the gantry for the first half and then came down for the second half, in which they were much improved. Not great for Wigan. They have other problems, don't they? And they're fighting a relegation battle to drop down to escape dropping down to League Two. I wish them the best. It's not been a happy few years for them.
Maybe the opposite of a lightning rod is a power cut of a game. You know, a game that's what it does. We haven't looked. The Arsenal drew with Brentford in the Premier League after, on Thursday night, so we didn't cover it, Barry, last week because it hadn't happened. But that is actually quite a significant result, I think, in the title race.
Well, it could be. The 2 points dropped. We know how good Brentford are. It could have been 3 points dropped. So their lead is now, 4 points? And they've got Wolves midweek. One, you would presume they'll win that. But yeah, I guess Arsenal fans will see it as 2 points dropped. I think it could have been worse. They could have lost that game. Brentford were very good.
Oh, this is when I've just discovered they are playing Wolves midweek, so there you are. I was like, what are you talking about, Barry? Oh, no, it is a fixture. I should never doubt you.
You often have reason to doubt me. Don't worry about that.
Whatever happened? What else happened? Liam Rossini derby. Dan, Chelsea won 4-0 at Hull. A hat-trick for Neto. Liam Delap set up a couple, but had a fun moment where he thought he'd scored, but the ball hadn't gone in the goal. Do you have any strong views on this football match?
Just that Liam Rossini has pretty much won nearly every game that he's been in charge of. And I was speaking to my brother-in-law at the weekend, who's a Chelsea fan, and he was just saying that the football is a lot better and more fun under him than it was under Enzo Maresca, and that he's very impressed with how he's handled himself so far. Now, obviously, there's the memes and the gifs and whatever about Rossini, but he has walked in there with the minimum of fuss and actually improved them. So I think credit to him. They'll obviously be one of the favourites to win the cup, and Rossini's got a bit of history with the FA Cup, playing in that final against Arsenal for Hull. I think, Chelsea have got a decent chance of a trophy now with the FA Cup, and Rossini is doing a good job. That's all I'd say.
Another one of the favourites, Man City, they beat Salford 2-0. So an improvement on last season for the class of 92. I think lost 8-0 last time. And Mark Gay settled it completely with about 9 minutes to go. So
I'm not happy about that.
What?
I think Mark Gay should be cup tied. I know the rules are the rules, but if you are tainted by direct association with what has been labelled the biggest FA Cup upset of all time, you should not be given a second chance where you can potentially go on to win the FA Cup in the same season. It's not right.
No.
We had a conversation a few weeks ago about the Carabao Cup and how he wasn't allowed to play in that, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
Semenya is, Gay isn't.
Yeah, which felt ludicrous, but then this feels ludicrous in the opposite way. Should be the other way around. You should be allowed to play in the Carabao Cup.
The FA Cup should be sacrosanct even. No, it does. I don't like it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think once you play, you've played, and that's it. You're cup tied. Otherwise, what is being cup tied? Fulham won 2-1 at Stoke. Stoke keeper Tommy Simpkin had a great game and then messed up at the end. And a couple of good saves from Henri Lecomte in the Fulham goal. I didn't expect to see him there. The dream is still alive.
Tennis racket?
Yeah, he did, of course.
Was he doing those sort of camp poses that he used to do at Wimbledon? Do you remember when he was?
Yeah. He was playing all the hits. I'm not sure who it was, actually, but I just heard Lecomte. I got excited. Barry, the dream is still alive for your mob. Won 1-0 at Oxford. A penalty. Oxford haven't scored at home since Boxing Day.
Yes, this was not a good game of football. Sunderland won 1-0, courtesy of a penalty that the Oxford player Makoso, very stupid challenge that he on Dennis Serkin that he didn't need to make. Serkin was at the left side of the penalty area, facing away from goal, surrounded by Oxford players, and Sissoko decides, I know, I'll chop you down. Chop is a bit of a stretch. The Oxford United coach thought it shouldn't have been a penalty. I think it was. But into the fifth round, Sunderland go. A friend of mine who's a bona fide Mackem said to me on Saturday night that he would rather Oxford beat Sunderland than Sunderland beat Oxford and get Newcastle in the next round. So make of that what you will.
In the Championship FA Cup ties, Wrexham beat Ipswich, Norwich beat West Brom, Southampton beat Leicester. Oliver Skipp did score an overhead kick for Leicester, which is not some words I ever thought I'd put in a sentence, but well done to him. It was a bad one.
If you have, what's the overhead kick spectrum? Is it
the Sinclair spectrum?
Gareth Bale. Oh, of course, it's the Sinclair spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm what am I talking?
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to me, Barry, for the last decade.
This one's very low on the Sinclair spectrum.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even give it a 2.
No, and I like if someone told you Oliver Skipp would score an overhead kick, this is the overhead kick you'd expect. But it's an overhead kick all the same. Do you have high hopes, John, for Mac Town against Brentford?
The pitch, it certainly was a problem for Crystal Palace. We'll have to see if it is for Brentford. Brentford are a team in slightly better form than Crystal Palace. Listen, it's been brilliant. Whatever happens, I just hope that it doesn't. It's not a humiliation or anything like that. It's that the town and the club shows it off for what it's been, which is, it's brought real attention to the football culture of the town, I think, to me, including to maybe a few people in the town. I've written a piece today, or I was in Saturday's paper, about growing up in the town and the football culture of there, which is, when you grow up there, you grow up within distance of a lot of big clubs and other attractions, and Mac had to compete for that attention, and I've just really enjoyed them getting that attention, and it's been great. And do you know what? I was a little regretful that they got a Monday tie, because I think the Saturday 12:30 or the 5:30 will be a bit more. Feels a bit more romantic, doesn't it? It feels a bit after the rest of the FA Cup's being played, but it's nice to have the draw at Moss Rose and all the rest of it. But yeah, I won't be there. I'll be watching it with my fellow exiled Maxonians. And do you know what? I don't think it's really fair that I am there, because there's a lot of people that want to be there that probably deserve to be there more than I do, that go more often than I do. And so, yeah, listen, I'll be watching and hoping. But come on, Mac.
Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So the top of the Scottish Premiership looks like this. Hearts have 57 points from 27 games, Rangers 55 from 27, and Celtic 54 from 26. And the Celtic game was before the Rangers Hearts game yesterday. So they were 2-0 down to Kilmarnock. They beat them in the 97th minute. It was Julian Araujo, jumped into the stands and basically was completely enveloped and perhaps eaten by some Celtic fans. We don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he ever emerged. I presume he got a yellow card, either brandished to his face or in absentia. A wonderful moment for him and for Celtic. Not such a wonderful moment for Rangers and Hearts, who played afterwards. I must confess, I didn't see the Celtic game, but I saw most of the Rangers Hearts game. Really good game of football. Rangers probably they did deserve to win, but they had to come from behind twice. And Yusuf Kermiti, who they paid £8 million from Everton in the summer, hasn't been popular around Ibrox way, but he has made a couple of very notable contributions, and his hat-trick here was a huge one, and put Hearts to the sword. So there is very much a 3-way title race in Scotland. Hearts are still top, but I think most people are kind of expecting them to fall away now. But they have 2 home games coming up, Falkirk and Aberdeen, and during that period of time, Celtic and Rangers have to play each other. So I think it's a bit early to write off Hearts. Rangers doing very well under Danny Roll. Celtic should have kept Martin O'Neill instead of giving the gig to Wilfred. What's it called? I've forgotten his name already. Nancy, yeah, that showbiz baby. And I think Motherwell deserve a shout out, because I was checking today. Motherwell have taken 4 points off Hearts, 4 points off Rangers, and 3 off Celtic already this season. So they're really doing their bit to ensure that this goes to the wire. So tip of the hat to Motherwell. They don't get many on Football Weekly, but they deserve one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yes, John?
I was going to say, Arajo was doing a post-match interview and really loving life. And Martin O'Neill walks past, I don't know if you've seen this clip, and just says, "Why don't you ask him about his first half performance?" To the interviewers, which he wasn't very happy with. I suppose the thing that I enjoyed it for Kilmarnock, who did a lot of the damage for them, was Tyrese John Jules. Yes.
Richard says can probably get 5 minutes out of Kilmarnock having a lad who is the nephew of the cat from Red Dwarf in their starting 11.
Yeah,
if
he had
nothing
a
else.
great
Sorry to
game.
steal your thunder, John.
Yeah, he had a great game. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that celebration, it reminded me of, remember Paul Gascoigne for Lazio in the Rome derby, where he scores and then runs into the crowd and is enveloped. It was very much an Italian-style celebration, wasn't it? You could see that at the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. That's the type of celebration you'd do. But, yeah, great scenes, great league. It's the best league in the world, isn't it?
I mean, should Tyrese John Jules, not that you were talking about his celebration there, should he celebrate like a cat, like the cat from Red Dwarf?
What, just
should Kilmarnock be forced to have other Red Dwarf characters?
Brighton.
Would the goalie have G written on his forehead? Yeah.
This means nothing to any of our. If we have any younger listeners, they'll be like, "What are you talking about?" And I mean, the noise at Rangers was sort of ludicrous. The pace of that game was something else.
I love that. I was going to say, I love that bouncy celebration that they do. They do it. The Rangers fans do it. I've only been at one game where they did it, and it was the 2008. UEFA Cup final, fairly notorious game, but that was at the City of Manchester Stadium. When they do that bounce, the whole place rattled, and I thought, this place was only built 6-7 years ago. It might go. It's a hell of a sight. I like to watch that one.
Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur, Dan. Igor Tudor, as we all expected, has agreed a deal to become Tottenham interim head coach until the end of the season. Nicky Bandini's written a good piece in the paper about how often he's kind of been parachuted in to save teams. This is a sort of alla Dicio style that he has. He likes to play three at the back. He likes his teams to run a lot, but he has no Premier League experience. And I did wonder, Dan, I'm not a big DNA man, but I just wondered if they needed someone who reeked of Spurs DNA in that big gaming chair in the dugout ahead of the North London derby next Sunday.
Maybe that's what the people who make the decisions at Spurs have been trying to avoid. Get away from that Spurs DNA. Maybe Spurs DNA is actually the last thing you need. Right now, it's an appointment that's like so far left field. If you'd have gone through the odds of next Tottenham manager, I don't think you'd have found him anywhere. It's almost like the Tottenham hierarchy have thought, let's just go as left field as possible, and maybe people will think that we know what we're doing, because it is so left field. He's got that experience mainly in Italy of being a firefighter, but you're right, there's a difference between doing it in Serie A and doing it in the Premier League. Look, I think Tottenham will be okay regardless. I think he's got a relationship with a few of the players. He's worked with a few of them before at Juve. Maybe that's played a tiny little part. But it is going to be absolutely fascinating seeing how he gets on, because I would never, ever have expected them to make him as the appointment of the next manager. It's going to be really interesting, and look, what a first game for him to have as well.
Yeah, Arsenal at home, then Fulham away, Palace at home, Liverpool away, Forest at home. John?
Igor Tudor is one of those names that I remember always being linked with a transfer to Manchester United in that sort of early transfer hubbub days, and he never arrived. It's the ferryman, isn't it, that Nicky wrote about? Is the name of these people that do that. I remember Swansea appointed, was it Guida Lin? He was one of those. You look at some Italian managers and you see. And Tudor's obviously not Italian, but you'd look down the list of clubs they've had, and it is a very, very long list. And it appears to be that's who they've appointed. Now, Fabio Paratici, I think, was the director of football, a guy who had to take time out of football for legal reasons, shall we say, who's come back. And he'd left Spurs, I think, not long ago with a bit of a kiss up to the club. And yet this appears a decision, the type of decision that he would make. And he had his Juve connections as well. So it's a very, very interesting call. It's a bit of a Hail Mary. I suspect that when Thomas Frank, I don't know the answer to this, when Thomas Frank was sacked, was this the plan? Was this the guy they had in mind? In which case, as Dan says, it is very out of left field. But how have they alighted on that beyond the involvement of people that are connected to Juventus? I mean, it's very odd. I mean, Parisici's at Fiorentina, I think now. It's a weird one, and it's one that Tottenham are going to have to explain. Vinay, of course, is the guy who runs the show in terms of being, head of football or whatever. They're going to have to explain it. But the thing is, though, with manager, I've said this before, we never really hear from the hierarchy of clubs to explain why this happened. I think Brighton's Paul Barber is about the only person that you ever hear from that will actually explain why these decisions are made. And I think Tottenham fans deserve an explanation, because if they get gubbed in the North London derby, it's already too late for an explanation, isn't it?
It's a terrible first game for him. Maybe they just heard Tim Sherwood basically saying he could do it, and they were just worried that he would turn up if they didn't just get someone in. No, I'm sure he'd have done a marvelous job. Yes, Barry?
No, I've read and heard so many people describe Igor as a firefighter that I will be incredibly disappointed if he doesn't turn up at the training ground in a big red truck wearing a yellow helmet and pulling a hose behind him. I have
Thomas,
no idea
yes.
whether he'll be decent or not.
No, I don't think anyone does.
I did. James Horncastle wrote in The Athletic, he said he's saved clubs in worse positions with worse players and less time available. And James has forgotten. James is one of two Jameses who have forgotten more about Italian football than I will ever know. So if he beats Arsenal, he'd be a legend. And if they get thumped, the crowd will turn on him very quickly. I think he managed Marseille reasonably well in the face of extreme fan hostility. So the denizens of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium don't have much on those Marseille ultras. So he'll probably be all right from that perspective.
He said 1 year at Marseille was like 3 years at a normal club. So I'm assuming like one game at Spurs will be like 10 years at a normal club.
While we're on Spurs, shout out for an old school football result in the WSL. Aston Villa 3, Tottenham Hotspur 7. I watched the highlights, more free-flowing football in one Spurs women's performance in the entire season under Thomas Frank. Do listen to the Guardian Women's Football Weekly on all things women's football. Thomas Tuchel's extended his contract as England manager through to Euro 2028. He said it was no secret to anyone that I've loved every minute so far, and he's very happy and proud to continue in his role. We will, of course, talk about that in the next international break. The Euros in 2028, hosted by England, Wales, Scotland, and the Republic of Ireland. We've got plenty of things to do before that happens. Bit of any other business. Weymouth FC tweeting in the 81st minute. Not often you say this, but Kieran Douglas is replaced by the director of football, Jason Matthews, as he goes in goal at the age of 50. They were 1-0 down at the time. I should have found out the final score, but well done to that director of football. Joel was trying to work out which Premier League side would be safest to bring on their sporting director. Mark Noble at West Ham could do a job. Edu, probably at Forest, maybe.
Jason Wilcox running the wing.
I can't think.
Could probably still...
Of course, Jason
One imagines
Wilcox.
Edu would do a better job on the pitch than he's doing off it.
Can Paratici do it for both clubs? Could he do it for Fiorentina and Tottenham at the same time?
Yeah. Why not? Uffrenden says, when Barry's doing his running, is he imagined being chased by the ghosts of hundreds of chickens? And Michael says, last week Barry claimed that his chicken kill count was in the high hundreds after spending a couple of weeks on his friend's farm as a youth. If we use 800 as the magic number and we allow him 2 days off in that time, that would mean a daily count of 66.66 chickens. How does this tally with Barry's claim that he isn't a bloodthirsty murderer?
As I tried to explain last week, there is a process for, the chicken that is on your plate at Sunday lunchtime. It gets there is a process by which it gets there.
Joel, yes.
And that process, sadly, involves the mass slaughter of chickens. And for anyone who hasn't ever been on a chicken farm, there are tens of thousands of them, if not more. And you don't just go in and select one and sorry, mate, and off you go. It's a mass cull. I shouldn't really have brought it up.
No, maybe you shouldn't, but I don't know. I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the eye. And I understand the hypocrisy. I do. Anyway.
I firmly believe that unless you're prepared to kill whatever is on your plate, you at least once, look it in the eye, and
right,
then you shouldn't eat it.
Okay. Barry's movie reviews. Just watched The Muppet Show 50th anniversary special. Loved every second of it. Utterly faultless. Kids will love it. A bit of blue for the dads, and Sabrina Carpenter leaning right into it. Perfection, says Barry. So look, this is yin and yang. On one day, you're just wringing the necks of chickens. On the other day, you're watching The Muppet Show 50th anniversary special and loving every second. What a man of great breadth. Yeah.
When Sabrina Carpenter was singing, she was accompanied by a backing chorus of chickens, all of whose heads remained intact.
Right, I see. And you stood there watching it with a meat cleaver. All these kids around you at the cinema, and there you. Who's Daddy? Who's that man with the meat cleaver? Anyway,
no, I think anyone out there with young kids, if they haven't seen the Muppet Show, you've got to get them into it. It really brought me back. It's class, brilliant TV show.
Yeah, well, they might be a bit young, but I'll try it on Ian, see how he goes, see if I can get him off Mighty Pups. Give me a rest.